Hi there, my name is Floyd, and welcome to our True Crime channel. Today we're diving into a chilling story about hidden identities, psychological trauma, and deadly secrets. This is the case of Emily and Sarah Daniels, twin sisters whose bond was broken by tragedy. But what Emily uncovered years later is far more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Stay with us as we unravel a twisted web of deceit, betrayal, and a search for the truth that came at a deadly price. The sound of shattered glass echoed through the quiet streets of Brookside, New Hampshire. On May 18, 2017, at exactly 2:45 p.m., Emily Daniels received a call that would change her life forever. Her twin sister, Sarah, was dead. 5 years had passed since the crash that claimed Sarah's life, but for Emily, the memory of that day remained sharp. The police had ruled it an accident, but Emily had never believed them. Something didn't add up. Emily Daniels was 32 years old, a graphic designer who had spent most of her life in Brookside. It was a small, picturesque town, the kind of place where everyone knew each other, where secrets were rarely kept, at least that's what people thought. Emily and Sarah had grown up here, inseparable from birth. Where one went, the other followed. But as close as they were, Emily had always sensed that Sarah was hiding something. There was a distance in Sarah's eyes in the months leading up to her death, a heaviness that Emily couldn't explain. Brookside was peaceful on the surface, with its charming streets, cozy shops, and quiet nights. But beneath that calm exterior, there were dark secrets, the kind that only came to light after tragedy struck. Emily knew this better than anyone. Their childhood home, sitting at the end of Maplewood Street, looked like the perfect suburban dream. But behind closed doors, tension often simmered. Their parents, ever focused on maintaining appearances, rarely spoke about anything that might disrupt the family's image. Emily and Sarah had learned to hide their emotions, especially Sarah, who wore a bright smile while keeping her deeper thoughts hidden. After the accident, Emily's life began to unravel. Without Sarah, she felt adrift, haunted not just by grief, but by the nagging feeling that something about her sister's death wasn't right. Sarah had always been so careful, so in control. Why would she have been driving down that stretch of road alone, late at night? Why were there no skid marks at the scene, no signs that she had tried to stop? These questions plagued Emily, but the police had given her nothing but closed doors and final reports. Emily's suspicions grew stronger as time passed. Her once busy social life faded away, and she withdrew into herself, spending hours searching through Sarah's old things, looking for answers. It wasn't until 5 years later, on the very anniversary of Sarah's death, that Emily discovered the first clue, a photograph, hidden between the pages of one of Sarah's old notebooks. The photograph showed Sarah smiling, standing next to a man Emily didn't recognize. It was dated 2 days before the accident. Who was this man? Why had Sarah hidden this photo? As Emily stared at the image, her heart raced. She realized that Sarah's death wasn't just an accident. It was a secret waiting to be uncovered. The sister she thought she knew had been living a life Emily couldn't have imagined. It was now June 2017. Emily Daniels couldn't shake the image of the man in the photograph. She had spent countless hours searching for clues, but this was the first real lead. She couldn't let it go. Who was this man, and how did he fit into Sarah's life? Emily's mind raced with possibilities, but one thought was clear. Sarah's death wasn't an accident. Emily began her search by visiting people who had been close to Sarah. One of the first stops was Sarah's best friend, Rachel Montgomery. Rachel had been one of the last people to see Sarah alive. They had worked together at a local boutique in Brookside, a place Sarah had spent many hours, both as an employee and as a friend. Emily knew Rachel would remember something. On June 10, 2017, Emily met Rachel at a small cafe near the boutique. Rachel was nervous. It had been years since they had spoken, and the conversation felt strained. After some awkward small talk, Emily brought up the photograph. Rachel's face went pale when she saw it. "I don't know him," Rachel said quietly, but Emily sensed she was holding something back. Pressing further, Emily mentioned that Sarah had been acting strange before the accident. That's when Rachel finally broke. She admitted that Sarah had been planning to leave Brookside. 2 days before her death, Sarah had told Rachel she was getting out, leaving everything behind. "She said she was ready to disappear," Rachel whispered. "She said she had no choice, before it was too late." Emily's heart sank. This was the first time she had heard anything about Sarah wanting to leave town. But why? What was she running from? And who was making her feel like she had no choice? Emily left the cafe with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Sarah had been afraid of something, or someone. And whatever it was big enough to make her want to disappear. A few days later, on June 14th, 2017, Emily found another clue. While going through Sarah's old bank statements, she noticed something strange. In the weeks leading up to her death, Sarah had been withdrawing large amounts of cash, thousands of dollars, taken out in small increments. Emily also discovered that Sarah had been sending money to an unknown account. The name on the account was MG, but there was no other information. Emily needed help to track this down. She reached out to a private investigator named Dean Reynolds, who had been known in the area for uncovering hard-to-find information. When Emily showed him the bank records, he didn't hesitate. "Whoever MG is, they're not hiding too well," Reynolds said confidently. "I'll dig around and see what I can find." While waiting for Reynolds to report back, Emily continued her own investigation. She visited the site of Sarah's crash, a lonely stretch of road just outside Brookside. The police had said Sarah had lost control of her car, but as Emily stood there, something felt off. The road was straight and clear. There were no skid marks, no signs of a struggle. It didn't look like someone had lost control. It looked like someone had taken it from her. Emily's suspicions grew stronger. As she walked along the side of the road, she found a small piece of shattered glass, too far from the crash site to be part of the wreck. She picked it up and pocketed it, unsure what it meant, but knowing it could be important. Later that week, on June 19th, 2017, Reynolds called Emily with the first major breakthrough. The account Sarah had been sending money to belonged to a man named Matthew Grayson, a wealthy but controversial figure in Brookside. Grayson's family was known for their influence in the town, but they were also tied to rumors of shady business deals and under-the-table transactions. Grayson himself had been involved in several legal disputes, though nothing had ever stuck. Matthew Grayson had never been mentioned in any of the police reports about Sarah's death, but now he was at the center of Emily's investigation. Emily decided to confront Grayson. She found him at a local country club where he was known to spend his afternoons. When she approached him and asked about Sarah, he looked at her with cold, disinterested eyes. "I don't know what you're talking about," Grayson said, brushing her off, but Emily could see through his act. There was something he wasn't saying. Emily pressed him, showing him the photograph of Sarah with the man she now knew was him. His face barely flinched, but his eyes darkened. Grayson leaned in, his voice low. "Accidents happen," he said, a thin smile creeping onto his lips. "Maybe you should leave the past where it belongs." Emily's heart raced. Grayson was clearly hiding something, but without proof, she had nothing. She needed more. On June 24th, 2017, Emily went to Sarah's old apartment, desperate to find more clues. She had gone through it before, but this time, she was more thorough. Hidden beneath a loose floorboard, Emily found a small lockbox. Inside was a fake ID with Sarah's photo, a burner phone, and a note that chilled Emily to the core. The note read, "You can't trust anyone, not even family." Emily's hands shook as she held the note. What had Sarah been involved in? And what did she mean by not trusting family? The burner phone was dead, but Emily took it to a local electronics store to see if they could recover any data. By July 1st, 2017, Emily had a full picture of what Sarah had been hiding. The burner phone held recordings of Sarah's conversations in the weeks before her death. In one of the recordings, Sarah was talking to Matthew Grayson. "I'm out," Sarah's voice said. "I can't do this anymore. It's too dangerous." Grayson's response was chilling. "You don't get to just walk away, Sarah. We all have a role to play." The last message on the phone was the one that haunted Emily the most. It was Sarah's voice, filled with desperation. "He's going to kill me. I know it. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Emily couldn't stop shaking. Sarah had known her life was in danger, but no one had believed her. And now, Emily was living her sister's nightmare. The same people who had silenced Sarah were coming for her. But she couldn't run forever. She had to expose Grayson. She needed someone outside of Brookside, someone powerful enough to take him down. Emily contacted Lisa Connor, a journalist she had met during a previous investigation into corruption. Lisa was known for exposing high-profile criminals, and Emily trusted her. On July 7, 2017, Lisa agreed to meet Emily at a diner just outside town. Emily handed her the folder and the phone, explaining everything. Lisa was shocked by the scale of the corruption, but she didn't hesitate. She promised to take the evidence to the FBI. 2 days later, on July 9th, the FBI began its investigation. They moved quickly, seizing Grayson's assets and questioning key members of his operation. But Grayson wasn't going down easily. He had too many people under his control, and Emily knew her fight wasn't over yet. That same night, Emily received an anonymous message. It was short, just 2 words, but it chilled her to the core. "Testify, die." Emily's mind raced. Grayson had eyes everywhere, and she was running out of time. The FBI was closing in, but Grayson still held power. She had to stay safe until the investigation was complete, but with each passing day, the danger grew. As the investigation unfolded, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her family was involved somehow. The note she had found in Sarah's apartment, warning her not to trust anyone, even family, kept playing in her mind. What had Sarah meant? Who in their family could have been part of this? The realization hit Emily hard. Her mother, Carol Daniels, had always been distant about Sarah's death, brushing it off as an accident and insisting Emily let it go. Now, Emily wondered if Carol had known more than she let on. Could her own mother have been part of the cover-up? Emily didn't have much time to dwell on it. The next step was clear. She had to testify. The FBI needed her to seal the case against Grayson, but doing so could mean risking her life. Grayson had made his threat clear. If she took the stand, she wouldn't live to see justice served. On July 15, 2017, Emily stood outside the courthouse, her hands trembling. She knew that walking through those doors would change everything. Emily's heart pounded as she ran from the parking garage. Dean Reynolds was dead, and now she knew she was next. She didn't look back. With the folder clutched tightly under her arm and the burner phone in her pocket, she sprinted into the shadows, hoping whoever had fired that shot wouldn't catch her. It was July 5, 2017, a date Emily would never forget. She couldn't trust anyone in Brookside now, not even the police. Grayson's influence stretched too far, and her only chance of survival was to stay hidden long enough to figure out her next move. She made her way to a small motel on the outskirts of town. It wasn't much, but it was safe for the time being. Once inside, she locked the door and barricaded it with a chair. Her mind was racing. Reynolds had found something important enough to get him killed. Emily sat down and opened the folder. What she found was worse than she could have imagined. The documents revealed a vast network of corruption, all tied to Matthew Grayson. It wasn't just about money laundering. Grayson had been running illegal deals for years, using his family's reputation as a shield. But more than that, the papers detailed how Sarah had become involved. Grayson had recruited her, luring her with promises of wealth. But when Sarah wanted out, things turned dangerous. Sarah had been a key player in one of Grayson's operations. She had been managing money transfers, some of which were tied to offshore accounts. But after realizing how deep she was, Sarah had tried to back out. That's when the threats began. Grayson had sent people to follow her, watch her every move. And the more she tried to escape, the more trapped she became. The recordings from the burner phone told the rest of the story. In one, Sarah confronted Grayson, her voice shaking with fear. "I don't care what you want," Sarah said. "I'm done. I'm leaving." Grayson's reply was cold, calculated. "No one leaves, Sarah. You know too much. If you walk away, I can't protect you." The last message on the phone was the one that haunted Emily the most. It was Sarah's voice, filled with desperation. "He's going to kill me. I know it. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Emily couldn't stop shaking. Sarah had known her life was in danger, but no one had believed her. And now, Emily was living her sister's nightmare. The same people who had silenced Sarah were coming for her. But she couldn't run forever. She had to expose Grayson. She needed someone outside of Brookside, someone powerful enough to take him down. Emily contacted Lisa Connor, a journalist she had met during a previous investigation into corruption. Lisa was known for exposing high-profile criminals, and Emily trusted her. On July 7, 2017, Lisa agreed to meet Emily at a diner just outside town. Emily handed her the folder and the phone, explaining everything. Lisa was shocked by the scale of the corruption, but she didn't hesitate. She promised to take the evidence to the FBI. 2 days later, on July 9th, the FBI began its investigation. They moved quickly, seizing Grayson's assets and questioning key members of his operation. But Grayson wasn't going down easily. He had too many people under his control, and Emily knew her fight wasn't over yet. That same night, Emily received an anonymous message. It was short, just 2 words, but it chilled her to the core. "Testify, die." Emily's mind raced. Grayson had eyes everywhere, and she was running out of time. The FBI was closing in, but Grayson still held power. She had to stay safe until the investigation was complete, but with each passing day, the danger grew. As the investigation unfolded, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that her family was involved somehow. The note she had found in Sarah's apartment, warning her not to trust anyone, even family, kept playing in her mind. What had Sarah meant? Who in their family could have been part of this? The realization hit Emily hard. Her mother, Carol Daniels, had always been distant about Sarah's death, brushing it off as an accident and insisting Emily let it go. Now Emily wondered if Carol had known more than she let on. Could her own mother have been part of the cover-up? Emily didn't have much time to dwell on it. The next step was clear. She had to testify. The FBI needed her to seal the case against Grayson, but doing so could mean risking her life. Grayson had made his threat clear. If she took the stand, she wouldn't live to see justice served. On July 15, 2017, Emily stood outside the courthouse, her hands trembling. She had made it this far, but the weight of Grayson's threat still hung over her. "Testify, die." The words echoed in her mind, but she knew she had no choice. Sarah had died trying to escape, and Emily wasn't going to let her death be for nothing. She took a deep breath and walked through the courthouse doors. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. The FBI had gathered enough evidence to charge Matthew Grayson with murder, money laundering, and conspiracy. But Emily's testimony was crucial to sealing his fate. Without her, there was a chance he could walk free. As she took the stand, the room seemed to shrink. Grayson was there, sitting calmly at the defense table, his expression unreadable. His eyes followed Emily, but she refused to look directly at him. Instead, she focused on the prosecutor, Samantha Kelly, who had been preparing her for this moment. Kelly asked Emily to recount everything she had discovered: Sarah's involvement in Grayson's operations, the threats, and the fear that had consumed her sister in the days leading up to her death. Emily spoke clearly, though her voice wavered when she described the last recording on Sarah's phone. "He's going to kill me. I know it. If anything happens to me, it wasn't an accident." Emily's voice cracked as she repeated Sarah's words. The courtroom was silent. No one moved as Emily described finding the hidden folder, the burner phone, and the final confrontation with Dean Reynolds, just before he was killed. She told the court about the gunshot, the chase, and the threat Grayson had made. Accidents happen. The defense lawyer tried to discredit her, suggesting that Emily was imagining connections where there were none. He implied that Sarah had been unstable, that her paranoia had clouded her judgment. But Emily stood firm, her grief replaced by determination. She had come too far to back down now. After hours of testimony, Emily stepped down from the stand. She could feel Grayson's cold gaze on her, but she refused to look his way. Instead, she focused on the FBI agents who had promised to protect her. Now it was in their hands. The trial continued over the next few weeks, with more witnesses coming forward, bolstered by Emily's courage. The evidence mounted, and Grayson's carefully constructed empire began to crumble. But Emily knew it wasn't over yet. Even behind bars, Grayson's reach extended far beyond the courtroom. On August 3, 2017, As the trial neared its end, Emily received another message. This time it was slipped under the door of her hotel room. She opened it slowly, her heart pounding. The note was handwritten, and it was a chilling reminder of Grayson's power. "You're not safe. He's still watching." Emily felt her stomach drop. She had been under FBI protection since the trial began, but it didn't matter. Grayson still had people on the outside, people willing to do his bidding. Emily's life would never be the same, but she couldn't let fear control her. The truth had to come out. The following day, August 4th, 2017, the jury delivered their verdict. Guilty. Matthew Grayson was convicted on all charges: murder, conspiracy, and money laundering. The courtroom erupted with emotion as the sentence was read aloud. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emily sat silently in the back of the room, the weight of it all crashing down on her. Grayson was going to prison, but she knew her fight wasn't over. His empire might be dismantled, but the threats would linger. She had exposed a dangerous man, and there would always be people who wanted her silenced. After the trial, Emily visited Sarah's grave for the first time since uncovering the truth. It was a quiet, cloudy day, and as she stood there, she felt a sense of closure. For 5 years, she had been haunted by unanswered questions, but now, at least, she knew the truth. Sarah hadn't died in a simple accident. She had been a victim of greed, control, and betrayal, and Emily knelt by the grave, placing a single white rose on the stone. "I'm sorry it took me so long," she whispered, "but I know now. I know everything." As she stood up, the wind picked up slightly, and for a brief moment, Emily felt Sarah's presence beside her. It wasn't closure in the way she had imagined. There was no going back to the life she had before, but it was a start. She had done what Sarah couldn't. She had fought back, and she had won, but the cost had been high. As she walked away from the grave, Emily knew her life would never return to normal. She had uncovered too much, seen too many dark corners of Brookside that most people would never understand. The shadow of Grayson's empire would follow her for years to come, but at least she had brought the truth to light. By the end of August 2017, Brookside had changed forever. Matthew Grayson's empire, once untouchable, had crumbled, and with it, the illusion of safety in this small town. The people who had feared him for years were finally free, but for Emily Daniels, freedom came at a cost. Though Grayson was locked away, his influence still lingered, a shadow over her life. Emily remained cautious, always looking over her shoulder, but she knew she had done the right thing. She had uncovered the truth about her sister's death and brought down a man who thought he could control everything and everyone. The price of justice had been steep, but it was one she was willing to pay for Sarah's memory. In the months that followed, the FBI dismantled the remnants of Grayson's operations, arresting several of his associates. Emily kept a low profile, choosing to live quietly and far from the public eye. Her life had been turned upside down, and while she knew she might never feel entirely safe, she had found a new sense of purpose. One final visit to Sarah's grave helped Emily find the closure she needed. Standing alone, she whispered the words she had been waiting to say for years. "You're free now, Sarah. We both are. We both." As Emily left the cemetery that day, she knew her journey wasn't truly over. There would always be reminders of what she had uncovered, and she would carry the weight of it with her. But she had faced the darkness and come out the other side, stronger than before. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, she was no longer running from the truth. And that's the tragic story of Emily and Sarah Daniels, a tale of hidden lives, dark secrets, and the price of uncovering the truth. What would you do if you found out your own family was involved in a conspiracy? Do you think Emily made the right choice, even knowing the danger she'd face? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more gripping true crime cases. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our next episode because sometimes the truth is darker than fiction.